The first night I knew I was being watched, I told myself it was the building, the pipes, the plaster settling, the city breathing outside my windows. I said it out loud because saying things out loud makes them smaller. It didn't help. By the second week, the watching had a weight. I moved into the apartment because it was cheap and because I needed a clean break. The landlord showed me the thin hallway, the crooked door frames, the single bulb that never quite warmed the room. There is a smell in the place, old wood and damp, like basements and things that have been folded away and forgotten. At dusk, the light in the living room turns that color between metal and cigarette smoke. At night, the corners become very quick to hide in. At first, the signs were polite, like a guest who fumbles at the edge of your life. A mug left on the counter, where I would swear it hadn't been. A towel draped over a chair when I knew I'd folded it. The kind of small wrongness you forgive yourself for because you must sleep. Then came the shadows that didn't match anything in the room. A darker dark near the doorway, a shape in my peripheral vision that I would blink at and find only plaster. That was the worst, the way my eyes kept catching something just outside focus, something that left the center of my sight suddenly hollow. I started sleeping with the television on, low, because silence made the watching feel louder. Sounds multiplied, the radiator sighed like a throat, the pipes clicked like teeth. Once, at 3 in the morning, I woke to the sound of my own keys on the table. I stood in the dark and listened until the noise stopped. I told myself I must have been dreaming. I told myself a lot of things. A week in, I caught her in a mirror. It was a quick, impossible thing, a flicker in the bathroom glass as I turned the tap. For a breath, I thought it was me. A pale face, 2 wide eyes, hair like oil falling straight. Her skin looked stretched thin over the sockets. She didn't move. The light caught the whites of her eyes so hard they became almost a light of their own. When I blinked, the mirror showed only my reflection, damp hair, the bruise of fatigue under my eyes. I told myself I had been too tired to name what I'd seen. The next morning, I reviewed the cheap security footage I'd set up after the Keys episode, a joke against my own nerves. My hands shook as I hit play. The feed showed the living room in grainy black and white. For hours, there was nothing but the slow tick of the clock. Then at 2:17 a.m., the frame caught something at the edge of the couch. A face, not all at once, but like a photograph developing. Pale, wide-eyed, the mouth a crack of teeth. It tilted toward the camera. For the first time, it looked directly into the lens. It was not looking at me. It was looking at whoever had the power to see through the glass. After the camera, nothing stayed small. The watching stopped being content with watching. The days blurred into a series of little disappearances. My toothbrush would be moved to a different cup. My coat would hang inside out, though I remembered folding it neatly. Once, I left my phone on the counter, and when I came back, the screen was lit with a photo I hadn't taken. My bed from above. The sheets rucked like someone had been turning in them. And at the foot of the bed, sitting upright, was that face, pale as bone, eyes like coins. She held herself still, like an image that had been laid over a moment of time and left there. I checked the timestamps. The photo was taken at 4:30 in the morning, while I had been asleep. My hands shook so hard I couldn't lock the phone. Then the messages started. At first they were small and stupid, a grocery list on my note app in my handwriting, as if someone had opened my phone and written what I always forgot. Later, more personal things appeared, a single sentence saved as a draft. I watched you sleep. My thumb hovered over delete, then over save. I felt like a puppet who'd found his strings cut and tied to someone else's hand. I did what you do when you want proof that you're not losing your mind. I looked her up. The building has a hushed history, but nothing official. There was a forum post from years ago about a woman who lived alone on the 3rd floor and stopped answering the stairs. People speculated. The old thread had one attached photograph, a portrait taken outdoors, smile flattened by time. The eyes, though, in that faded print were bright and too focused, as though the camera hadn't caught a single person, but had captured a hunger. Every modern picture I found of the address had her blurred or cropped out, as if a hand had been drawn across her face in the file. When I mentioned it to the landlord, he laughed too long and said she'd moved out. He said it like a joke. He'd said other things too, things that landed like stones. Some people leave more than furniture behind. Sleep stopped belonging to me. I began to wake in unfamiliar places in the apartment. On the couch, in the bathtub with the water cold, on the floor with my phone face down, and dozens of unexplained photographs in my camera roll. There were pictures of me I hadn't taken, me sleeping, my mouth slack, my eyes half open, and in each of them, in a corner or layered on top, her shape, watching as if the camera had a memory of her presence. The worst part was the way the apartment learned my rhythms. She knew when I showered, when I locked the door, when I forgot to close a window. One night, I woke from a shallow, buzzing sleep to the scent of something sweet and rotten, like old flowers left in a jar too long. There was a sound at the bedroom door, a slow, deliberate scratching, not from nails, but from fingernails dragging metal. I held my breath until I thought my ribs would split. When I finally opened the door, there was nothing in the hallway but my reflection in the dark window across from the stairwell. My reflection looked back with my face, my hair, my eyes. For a second, comfort rushed at me. Then a movement behind the glass, not in the reflection, but in the room beyond, made my stomach drop. She was there, pressed to the other side of the window, smiling with too many teeth, and she was holding my camera. I decided to break the rules. I stopped hiding and started making noise. I taped the hallway lights open with duct tape, set every lamp to burn until they hissed, and propped the bathroom mirror so it faced the living room. If she wanted the dark, I would give her the light. I sat in the center of the apartment with my knees pulled to my chest and my phone on record. I told myself I would keep my eyes open until morning, that the human body could outlast anything with patience and a lamp. Hour after hour, the glare made the room flat and false. My skin felt like paper under it. The bulbs threw my own shadow, long and stupid, across the floor. Time folded into small rituals. Sip water, shift my feet, breathe. I tried to turn the fear into observation. When something moved in that bright air, I would be ready. At 3 a.m, the apartment changed its cadence. The lights didn't flicker. The air cooled like the mouth of a cave. From the kitchen came a sound like breath-fogging glass, slow and wet. My phone recorded it all. A smear of static, then a soft scrape against wood. I told myself not to look, and then looked, because the thing about being watched is that you can't practice not looking. She came through the door like a stain spreading across paper, slow, deliberate, ridiculous in the way she used her own weight. The bulbs showed every detail. The hollows of her cheeks, the string of hair stuck to the corner of her lip, the wet glint at the edge of her mouth. She didn't run. She smiled the same way she had on the camera feed, as if pleased by the mechanics of something she'd built. I stood up. My legs felt like someone else's. My voice was a sanded thing when I called her name, the only name I had for her. She tilted her head, and that tilt undid something in my chest. We were close enough that I could have grabbed her, could have reached and held onto the fragile part of a thing that was terrified of being seen. Instead, she lifted my phone and angled it toward me. The screen showed me, my face, exhausted, eyes rimmed red. Then she pressed the record button with a careful finger. She spoke for the first time, and it was my voice on her lips because by now she had learned the edges of me, small inflections, the way I swallowed. "Thank you," she said, and it was like watching a mirror learn to lie. When she turned the phone to the mirror, I understood. The glass did not show me. It showed her, wearing my expression, the same tired slump in her shoulders, the same bruise beneath the eye. For a second, I thought it was a trick of light, some last human hope reaching for a rational scene. Then I saw the photograph on the counter. My passport, face stamped and normalized, but the photograph was her, my driver's license, my social media profile. In every place where I had left evidence of myself, there was a woman smiling with my mouth and her eyes burning. I reached for the mirror. My fingers met cold glass, and nothing answered back. There was only the faint print of a hand where I had pressed, and in that print, the smear of someone else's skin. Her laugh bubbled up, low and pleased, and I understood the truth in a single small animal way. She had been copying my life until I became the copy. I still have the recording. I still have the lights taped to their sockets. I still keep the apartment because it is the only place left that remembers my routine. People pass me in the street and give a polite nod. I don't know if they see me or the woman behind my face. Sometimes, when I think I am alone, I catch movement in the corner of my eye and the world tilts the wrong way. She learned how to be me. She learned my face.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.